Bavaria, 1922. Beyond the village roads, beyond the last flicker of lamplight, stood a lonely farm known as Hinterkaifeck. The world was rebuilding after the Great War. Cities were healing. Nations were trying to forget. But here, time seemed trapped. Snow covered the fields like a burial cloth. The wind moved slowly through the trees. And in that silence stood a farmhouse, isolated from the world. 6 people lived there. 6 people who would soon become part of one of Germany's most terrifying, unsolved mysteries. This is the chronicle of the horror of Hinterkaifeck. The Gruber family lived in isolation. Andreas Gruber, stern, aging patriarch, a man hardened by labor and war-torn years. His wife, Cecilia, quiet, disciplined, weathered by farm life. Their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, young still, yet marked by grief. Victoria's children, little Cecilia, bright-eyed and observant, and toddler Joseph, barely able to speak. And the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, recently arrived to replace another who had fled. Life here was routine, hard, quiet. The days began before sunrise. Animals fed, wood chopped, bread baked, the rhythm of survival. But something had begun to disturb the silence. It started with footprints. Fresh snow had fallen, smoothing the earth into white stillness. Andreas noticed tracks leading from the forest toward the house. Heavy prints, measured steps. He followed them carefully. They reached the farmyard and stopped. There were no tracks leading back, no sign of departure. Someone had come and never left. Then came the noises. Footsteps in the attic. Slow, deliberate, dragging sounds across wooden beams. Andreas searched the space, lantern in hand. Nothing. Keys went missing. A newspaper appeared in the kitchen, one no one had purchased. The previous maid had already fled days before, claiming the house was haunted. She spoke of whispers in the walls, of being watched. But the Grubers stayed. Because fear does not milk cows. Fear does not harvest grain. Fear does not pay debts. And so they endured, unaware that the darkness above them might already be waiting. March 31st, 1922. The night air was brittle with cold. The moon hung pale over the barn. One by one, members of the family were drawn outside. No screams reached the road. No neighbor heard a struggle. Inside that barn, beneath wooden beams and hanging tools, 4 members of the household were killed. Blows struck in darkness. Straw absorbed what the night concealed. Back in the house, the maid was silenced in her chamber, and the child in his cradle. 6 lives ended, not with chaos, but with suffocating silence. And then, something even more disturbing. The killer did not leave. For days after the murders, smoke rose from the chimney. The cattle were fed. The dog remained tied. Bread was sliced. Water was drawn from the well. Someone moved through that farmhouse. Someone slept beneath its roof. Someone lived beside the dead. On April 4th, neighbors grew uneasy. The family had not appeared at church. The children had not attended school. Concern turned to dread. They approached the farm. The door opened to stillness. Inside the barn, beneath layers of hay, the bodies were found. Stacked, hidden. In the house, the maid and the child. Word spread quickly across Bavaria. Police arrived. Photographs were taken. Coffins arranged in solemn rows. Officers stood beside them, their faces marked not only by horror, but by confusion. The headline would soon read, "A terrible family murder, unsolved." Investigators questioned neighbors, former lovers, traveling workers, drifters seen on distant roads. Rumors circled the village like winter wind. Revenge, jealousy, inheritance, madness. But nothing held. No confession emerged. No decisive evidence surfaced. The attic yielded no phantom. The forest offered no witness. The footprints remained the most chilling clue of all. They had come from the trees and never returned. In time, the farmhouse was demolished, its beams dismantled, its walls erased from the landscape, as if destroying the structure might silence the questions. But the questions endured. Who watched from the tree line? Who hid in the attic shadows? Who fed the animals while 6 bodies lay cold? Was it a stranger or someone familiar enough to be trusted? More than a century has passed. Wars have come and gone. Generations have risen and fallen. Yet the horror of Hinterkaifeck remains unsolved. Not because it was forgotten, but because it left no face behind. Only absence, only silence, only footsteps in the snow. And somewhere in the quiet fields of Bavaria, when the wind moves just right, it almost sounds like someone walking, slowly, carefully, toward a house that never saw them leave.